The Story of Michael Bisping Part 1. The Kid from Clitheroe. The story of Michael Bisping does not begin under the bright lights of Las Vegas. It does not start with championship belts or screaming crowds. It starts on a small island in the Mediterranean Sea, on a British military base in Nicosia, Cyprus. It was there, on February 28, 1979, that Michael Gavin Joseph Bisping was born. His father, Jan, was a soldier in the British Army, a man of Polish noble descent. His mother was Irish. The family was strong, but their life was one of constant movement, following the military's call. Soon after Michael was born, the family moved back to England. They settled in a small, working-class town called Clitheroe in Lancashire. This is where Michael truly grew up. Clitheroe was not a place of great opportunity. It was a tough, industrial town in the north of England, where you learned to be tough or you learned to hide. Michael, it seemed, was not built for hiding. As a child, he was, by his own admission, a bit of a loner. He was not good at the sports that made other boys popular. He was, as he would later say, terrible at football, which in England was almost a social crime. He felt out of place, a boy with restless energy and no direction. He needed something to anchor him, something to give him an identity. He found it at 8 years old. His father, wanting his son to learn discipline and self-defense, introduced him to martial arts. Michael began training in jiu-jitsu. For the young Bisping, it was more than just a class. It was a revelation. Finally, here was something he was good at. Here was a place where his energy was not a problem, but a strength. It gave him confidence. It gave him a purpose. He loved the physical challenge, the rough and tumble of sparring, and the feeling of getting better. Day by day, his passion only grew. He watched martial arts movies and idolized the action stars. He was not just a kid doing a hobby, he was a boy learning a craft. His father supported him completely, driving him all over the country to compete in tournaments. This was not just a phase. This was who he was. At the age of 15, Michael Bisping stepped into his first no-holds-barred competition. This was not the safe, regulated sport of today. This was a precursor to modern mixed martial arts, or MMA. It was raw, it was dangerous, and it was exactly where Michael felt he belonged. He was a natural. The fire that had been building in him for years was finally unleashed. He was a fighter. But a dream is a hard thing to hold on to when the realities of life start to press in. At 18, Michael Bisping made a decision. He looked at the world around him. He saw the hard work, the low pay, and the lack of a clear future in this new, brutal sport. Fighting was not a career. It was something kids did. He decided it was time to grow up. He quit training to pursue what he called a normal life. That normal life was a harsh teacher. For the next several years, Michael Bisping drifted. He worked a long series of grueling, blue-collar jobs, each one draining his spirit. He worked in factories. He worked in a slaughterhouse. He worked for demolition companies, tearing down buildings. He became an upholsterer, fixing furniture. He was a postman, delivering mail. He was a tiler and a plasterer. He worked as a salesman. He even tried to become an electrical engineer, but he dropped out. He was working, but he was lost. He was, in his own words, going nowhere fast. He was in his early 20s, had a growing family to support, and felt like a deep disappointment. The fire he had as a kid was almost out, replaced by the cold reality of bills and a life he never wanted. He was on a path of self-destruction, going out with friends, getting into scraps, and wasting his potential. Then, a voice from his past called him back. Alan Clarkin, his old kickboxing coach, saw what Michael was becoming. He saw the wasted talent and the deep unhappiness. He found Michael and told him point blank that he had a real gift. He urged him to come back to the gym. This was the wake-up call Michael needed. He was broke, had 2 children, and his wife, Rebecca, had every reason to tell him to keep his steady, if miserable, job. Instead, she had faith in him. They made a choice together. Michael Bisping would stop drifting. He would dedicate everything he had to becoming a professional fighter. He returned to training with a new, desperate focus. This was not a hobby anymore. This was his last chance. He trained in boxing, kickboxing, and karate, sharpening his tools. He was so poor that he would sometimes sleep in his car, just to make it to training. This sacrifice forged a new kind of fighter. He was not just talented anymore. He was hungry. He was relentless. In 2004, Michael turned professional. He began fighting on the small, local circuits in the United Kingdom. He was not just winning, he was dominating. He fought at Cage Rage and Cage Warriors, two of the biggest promotions in the UK. He won his first fight by TKO. He won his second. His third. He fought a tough, respected fighter named Mark Epstein, a man who had more experience and power. Epstein dropped Bisping hard in the first round. For a moment, it looked like the dream was over. But Bisping, showing the resilience that would define his entire career, got back up. He weathered the storm and came back to win the fight by knockout. He was a force of nature. He was loud, he was cocky, and he was backing it all up. He went undefeated, winning 10 professional fights in a row. He won the Cage Rage light heavyweight title. He was the king of the British MMA scene. But in his heart, he knew this was not the real prize. The biggest promotion in the world, the place where legends were made, was the Ultimate Fighting Championship, the UFC. And in 2006, the UFC was looking for new talent. They were casting for the third season of their reality show, The Ultimate Fighter. It was a show where fighters lived in a house together and fought each other for a six-figure contract. This was it. This was the door he had been pounding on. Michael Bisping, the kid from Clitheroe who had worked as a postman and in a slaughterhouse, packed his bags. He was going to America. He was going to show the world who he was. He had no idea that this was just the beginning of a journey that would bring him unimaginable glory and almost cost him everything.